And unless you actually were there, or you actually have an encounter with him yourself, no one will ever know what it was like to experience Jesus coming out of the tomb.
Test the claim.
Saturday and Sunday normally.
You can,
Fair enough.
you can do the intro back into what you were saying now.
Okay.
All right. Just quickly brief them.
So we were just basically discussing that about personal spiritual experiences compared to what is written down in books. And I said, and I'm basically saying, spiritual encounters with the divine overrides anything you read in a book.
So I would obviously I'm going to continue this to argue that spiritual encounters don't override things that come in. But for example, there's a doctrine, and I think it's in Eastern Orthodoxy, but it's also just a term for like spiritual deception. It's called preless. So it's the idea that you're spiritually deceived by something. It could be Satan, you could argue. It could be something else entirely. It could be a goblin. But in our paradigm,
What, a goblin?
yeah, I know. Right? But in our paradigm, it would be.
Come on, you
Satan.
don't believe in goblins?
No,
do you?
I don't. I'm not claiming to. But I'm saying it could be in another paradigm. But in my paradigm, it's Satan that deceives. And I do believe Satan has led these world religions into a deceptive view. Now, how do you come to the determination that a church is true? Or even the church is true as a whole? Well, you look at the criterion for what historical sessions are. What did historians believe about the Bible that they considered it true? The criterion of embarrassment is one of them. So when you read the gospel accounts, Mary goes to the tomb and they're the first to find Jesus resurrected. Now, this isn't something that was in the mind of the very Homeric, post-Homeric mindset of the hero has to always be discovered by individuals that are men. On top of that, we have within the arc of so you're talking pre-Homeric or even after Homer's Odyssey type of linguistics, we have their writings or their authors claiming that essentially they're heroes. They're the heroes of the time. They're the ones who are seen as mighty. They have women. They drink. They smoke. They have multitudes of sex. Whereas we have the flip side with Jesus being born of a virgin, living a humble existence, dying on a cross, washing his apostles' feet. And this is a god, by the way. If you're talking about like post-Homeric thought before Jesus Christ, this was unheard of. Even in Jewish thought, it was unheard of.
How do you know?
So allow me to finish. So the reason why it's unheard of, and the reason why historians give a criteria for this, is simply because if you read historical sources, like Homer's Odyssey, and every source that predates it, or even sources after it, they don't describe a god that washes men's feet, that humbles himself to a low position, as low as a peasant. And they don't exalt women to the status of having been the ones that discover this revelation, like the revelation of Christ appearing from the tomb. So again, that's called the criterion of embarrassment, by the way. Like William Lane Craig mentioned it perfectly in his book, Christian. What's it called? Reasonable faith. Sorry, yeah, reasonable faith. That I would say is a reason why one should believe in Christianity over any other religion. But why should anybody believe in their own spiritual deceptions other than a Christian religion or a book? Simply because it's not just a book, it has a history, it has a church. That church has a history, and if the witnesses of that church were true, then we have no reason to deny the paradigm of that worldview. But go on, I don't want to answer it.
And unless you actually were there, or you actually have an encounter with him yourself, no one will ever know what it was like to experience Jesus coming out of the tomb. And I can tell you something. When Jesus, I can tell you that Jesus coming out of the tomb is not literally, oh, I saw Jesus, I feel good. It's seeing Jesus coming out of the tomb, appearing to them, and then Jesus making it known within them that they are also their true self has resurrected within them. That's why they were so joyous, because Jesus showed them who they truly were, and that's what happens when you encounter the divine. You'll see who you truly are. It's not about, oh, I saw Jesus, and therefore, he must be God.
So I want to harken on to that point you made earlier about the fact that, well, the point you made earlier was about the fact that if they witnessed, like them witnessing Jesus doesn't necessarily mean that. For example, if I didn't witness Jesus, and I believe that I'd never witnessed Jesus rise out of the tomb, but that doesn't therefore infer that I shouldn't believe that he rose from the dead. If the historical accounts are pointing to a historical people, the Jews, who generally didn't believe that men could rise from the dead, yeah, they had their assertions, but they didn't believe that. And then we're talking about a community
Am I right
who were
by
willing.
saying? Am I right by
Can I
saying?
finish?
Sorry, go on.
So I finish my thought. But no
Yeah,
problem.
sorry.
Yeah, so a Christian community and a Jewish community who generally didn't believe that people could rise from the dead. If those people at the time saw a guy risen from the dead and then were willing to die for this belief, were willing to allow their own children, their own families to be persecuted and burned by Nero and Diocletian thereafter, I can only infer that either hundreds upon thousands of people went mad in the 1st century and 2nd century, or that they were actually thinking a man rose from the dead. I have no other reason to claim that, yes, sure, I didn't actually see these events occur. Sure, maybe I didn't. But I have no reason to deny they happened, because simply it isn't the case in any historical writings, let alone the Bible, which is the most copied book in antiquity.
I'm not saying it didn't
I
happen.
have no reason to claim that it didn't happen.
I'm not saying it didn't happen.
But my point is, if it did happen, then the paradigm in which it's based upon, which is the Bible, should be believed. And if it should be believed, then I don't see any point not to.
I'm saying unless you have a personal encounter with the divine, you won't know if it truly happened or not.
So again, when it comes to personal encounters, for example,
you're just blindly following.
But you're not blindly following. You're following based on historical facts. You're following based on the fact that Jesus did rise from the dead, and this is historical facts based upon Scripture, but also the testimonies at the time. You're following based on the fact that in this realm, you just can't conceive of any world where there could be a mass hallucination so great where thousands upon people could be misled to believe a man rose from the dead.
Only because you're just basically repeating what the Bible says.
But the reason why I am is because that it not only is the greatest historical evidence, but it's actually true. Most historians repeat this as well. Mike Licona, Bart Ehrman himself,
okay, sorry, how do these people
believes
know,
in the stuff as well, so he's not denying this.
How do these people know if they weren't there?
So what do you mean, how do these people know when
if they weren't there to see the resurrection, how do they know it happened?
So if they weren't there to see the resurrection, so you're talking about what? Michael Licona, Bart Ehrman weren't there?
Whichever historian or...
So we would obviously claim that the people that were there did witness the events of the crucifixion. They did consider Jesus rose from the dead. And I mentioned the criterion of embarrassment before. The idea that Christ rose from the dead and he was witnessed by women. Now, in historical post-Homeric thought, they never considered a woman would discover revelation like that. It was unheard of. So again, if a Jewish community is going to write this down, they're going to do it in favor of the male view of things. They're not going to do it in favor of the female view. So that again, it just adds to the possibility that Christ was crucified. On top of that, we have the thousands of accounts, and even outside of the Bible. For example, you've got Thales, for example, saying that the sky went dark for 3 days. And that's during the time that the crucifixion happened. Did you know that? That was a big thing for me. And obviously you got Papyrus, obviously used a bit later, but then you got Josephus.
Who said that the sky went dark?
Oh, Thales.
When was he around?
He was around first century, sorry. It wasn't 2nd century, sorry, my bad.
Did he witness it going dark?
Yeah, that was his claim, that it went dark. From his vantage point, from where he was.
Can you show me any evidence?
I have to get it up. I don't know whose thing is that. So the source I've got is actually on my phone. I have to get it up. Sorry, 1 minute. Oh, that wasn't mine. Sorry, that was in there. Yeah. Right.
No, we're just waiting for him to just look at something.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up the quote from Thales because it's literally on my phone. It's literally on my phone. Wait. Hadith, no. Instagram, no. Pictures. No, that wasn't it. I got a load of memes in it. So so fellas, sorry. So it's
Oh my
fellas,
God.
sorry.
Good, how are you? Yeah.
It's fellas or
I'll
fellas?
talk to you in a minute. I'm just recording this. Yeah.
Yeah, so no problem. So it's fellas or fellas. So it's 52 AD. So it's the first century, basically. He's an enemy of Christianity, and you can look up yourself. It's just a screenshot I've taken from a video, but obviously he has the sources. Fellas is perhaps the earliest secular writer to mention Jesus. He offers an explanation to the earthquake and darkness that occurred during Jesus' crucifixion. So he claims that darkness occurred during Jesus' crucifixion. You can look it up on your phone if you want. But his name is Phallus. It's by the way, it's not a it's a screenshot, so it's literally on my phone. Yeah. By the way, I have to go in a bit, so I'm not gonna.
Well, I'm going with you, aren't I?
Oh yeah, come with me. Sorry. Yeah, let me check. Sorry, let me check if they sent me the thing. But yeah, did you get the point now? Like it's Phallus, right?
Yeah, I'm not denying Jesus died on the cross.
Yeah, but if he rose again, the whole strength for
I'm
the
not saying
argument.
he didn't rise again. I didn't say he didn't rise again.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you won't, but I'm saying that's the criterion for why you would believe the Bible. You understand? Because your whole argument is, why should I believe in a book for my spiritual experiences? But I'm saying the reason why you should is because if these same people told you that Jesus Christ crucified, they don't have no reason to lie about the various other doctrines they've taught. Why would they? It wouldn't make any logical sense. It'd be anathema and antithetical to their own views. You understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's what I believe. I want to end it here because I actually need to go now. But
Are you ready to go?
Nowhere. No,
To meet them?
I'm still gathering content.
Oh, is it? Are you being...
Catch up with you guys anyway.
All right then,
Catch up
okay.
with us, man. But anyway, look, blessed conversation. Come to Christ. God bless you.
I'm already with Christ, man.
Yeah, no, you no.
I believe you are Christ.
I am the Christ. We
Yeah,
are all the Christ.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Nah.